Hey everyone, my name is Noah Barnett. I am the VP of Marketing here at Feathr, and I'm excited to welcome you to another session of Flight School. This one is going to be incredibly special because we have a great guest who's joining us in the latter half of today's presentation to give you firsthand knowledge of how he's worked directly with many associations on how they can better leverage partnerships. I'm grateful. I won't give away the lead, but he will be joining us at the latter half. So stick around. You won't have to just listen to me for 45 minutes, just 20. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And again, welcome to Flight School. Today's session is going to be all about how associations can better leverage strategic relationships and partnerships. Partnerships are such an integral part to an association's success, especially as it relates to the annual meeting, events, other ways that you partner with other organizations that serve your member base. And it generates more revenue. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk about some of the structural ways that you should think about strategic partnerships. Then we're going to share three ways that you can better leverage partnerships beyond just having them involved with your events. And then we're actually going to share some real case studies on how associations have done this well. If you haven't discovered the chat yet, definitely check that out. It's already active. Deborah, I love everything about Seaside Market, Waverly, and VG's Donuts. We should chat about that separately after Flight School because it's incredible. But if you haven't seen the chat, definitely check that out. If you have questions throughout today's presentation, you can drop them in the chat as well. Well, without further ado, let me dive in. If you're unfamiliar with Feathr, Feathr is the nonprofit marketing platform. We serve associations, we serve charities and arts and culture organizations. We're specifically designed software to help you reach and connect with your members and your communities. And the luxury we have, and why I really tell you this as part of the primer of the presentation, is that we're trusted by over 900 associations. And many of these are, even some of you on this call are a part of this because we have customers and non-customers on today's presentation. But the reason that that's important is not because we just serve all of these associations, but we actually get to see firsthand how these associations use marketing to better acquire members, activate members, engage their members, and also how they work with partners to promote events and to generate more revenue for their organization. So a lot of the learnings that we're going to share today are based on that firsthand experience that we've observed from many of our association customers. So one thing, actually, I'm going to skip over this slide because it's not relevant right now. Let's get into it. How associations can increase revenue through strategic partnerships. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about strategic partnerships and how you ensure that they're value added for members, they're joyful yeses for your partners, and that revenue lever, or it's a revenue lever for your association. We're also going to how you can source best fit strategic partners and then share those 3 ways to leverage strategic partners to grow revenue. So first, we need a plan on how we can think about strategic partnerships. And so the 5 key elements of a strong and kind of lasting strategic partnerships are aligned goals is number 1. You can't have a strategic partnership with someone that is not aligned to the goals of your association or organization. It could temporarily work, but it's not going to be a lasting, striving partnership. And so aligned goals are important. And aligned goals doesn't mean it has to be, your association might say, hey, we're really here to serve legal professionals in Florida. Like that's our focus. And so our focus is to advocate and serve the legal professionals in Florida. Your partners don't need to have that exact same goal, but your partners you would work with need to be aligned to the goals that you have as an organization, with the intention that you're not mission drifting and just working with partners to just generate revenue, but there's misalignment where it's a negative experience for your community, or it's a detrimental experience for your association in working with that partner. Strategic partnerships need to be a win-win-win. Win for your members or your community, a win for you and your association, and a win for the partner. When we say aligned goals, that's what we're really looking for, is that win-win-win relationship. The second key element of a strategic partnership is you need to have a strong commitment. There needs to both be a commitment from the partner. Maybe that's a financial commitment. Maybe that's a commitment to the values or the alignment of your mission from the partner. But it's also a commitment from you as an association that you believe that this partner is worthwhile to introduce to your members, to be associated with. Again, this is similar to the aligned goals, but it's highlighting the need to have commitment on both sides of the relationship to ensure it's a strategic partnership and not a transactional one. The third thing is that you need to be transparent. And what I mean by this is that you, as an association, need to be transparent to your partners on the value and the intention that you have in the partnership. Likewise, your partners, and you should request this from your partners, should be transparent as to why they want to be in the strategic partnership and what they're trying to get out of it. This idea of transparency, again, changes a transactional relationship into a strategic relationship, because the transparency on both sides ensures that there's no hidden agendas, there's no underlying misalignments. All of that is out in front. And this can be developed over time, but a strategic partnership requires you to have transparency, both from you as an association and the partner. And so it's a dual-sided transparency model. The fourth element of a strategic partnership is that it needs to be value focused. It needs to be intentionally designed to serve your members, not just to serve your association, just to make more money or increase revenue and just say, well, it's just, we need revenue, so we're going to sell, access to our members to anyone that is willing to pay. I don't think you would do that, but it's important to remember that as a strategic partnership, you need to ensure that it's value focused. Likewise with your partners. If your partners are viewing this just as a transactional relationship to just sell more stuff to your members or to expose your members to more things, and there's not an agreement to the value that the association is trying to bring to the members, but whether they're businesses or individuals, that's not going to be a healthy relationship long term. It might be a partnership. It's not going to be a strategic one. And the last but not least is accountability. And accountability often is you as an association or you as an organization being held accountable to your partners. It also goes the other way. All of these are two-sided, where your partner also needs to be accountable that they're going to serve they're going to honor the integrity of the relationship in the way that they said they were going to be. And you can hold them accountable to hold up their end of the deals. Or in a strategic relationship, like we're going to talk previously, you aren't the only one giving to your partners, but your partners are also giving to you. And how are we making sure that that's in balance? Now, I said that the main accountability is of you as association to your partners, and that's really important. So how are you being transparent into the value or the access or the impact that your partners are having with your members? That might be visibility and reporting. That might be making sure that we're delivering on the commitments we have and we're giving as much value as possible. It also means like when things don't go right or maybe something changes, like many of us had to go through during 2020 when we had to cancel events or maybe change the dynamic of a partnership, even though we committed to it. We need to be accountable to where maybe we're misaligned or we're missing expectations and be transparent about that, but also be held accountable where we might need to come up with new ways to serve the partner in exchange for missing out on a specific deliverable. So again, a strategic partnership requires all 5 of these. A partnership doesn't. But what we're focused on talking about, especially when it comes to some of the ideas and tactics that we're going to be getting into later, is we're talking about strategic partnerships, not transactional ones, because that's what's going to help provide sustainable and lasting revenue opportunities and ultimately value for you and your members for years on years, versus just, I have access, now I'm going to move on and go there. Again, if you have questions about this or comments, feel free to drop those in the chat. But again, these are the 5 key elements of a strategic relationship. Now, how do you actually source and cultivate best fit strategic partnerships? Now, there's a couple things we're going to talk about, but first is a discovery phase. So we've talked about the key elements. The first part of finding strategic partners or cultivating strategic partners is the discovery. Where is there overlap between your community that you're serving, your member base, and potential partners? I'll give you a great example. Is there was a healthcare association or a rare disease kind of society or organization that served both the families or the individuals and families and medical community that served this rare disease. One thing that they realized is that there was overlap in both the care that was needed for these individuals that were impacted by this rare disease, but also there were pharmaceutical companies or medical device companies that were looking for ways to showcase that there was new options for these patients that were impacted by this rare disease. That would be a community overlap where you're looking at your community and saying who else or who are the other people that are uniquely serving and adding value to this community. Now, if you're a professional community, it might be who are the other vendors or other businesses that are looking to sell into these business or to serve these businesses. If you're more of a national one, that might be different than if you're a regional association or member base. This next one is value alignment, which we already talked about, is who actually has overlapping value that you're looking to add. In this case, with this association, they both were serving this community impacted by rare diseases. The association was doing that by community education and access to shared learnings. The pharmaceutical company was doing that through practical, like medical devices that were going to be life-saving for this community. What is the value alignment that's serving this community? So it's not just the overlap. Like your members could shop at Target. That might not be value aligned because what Target's providing versus what you're providing might not be a best fit. So it's better to look for partners that have both community overlap and value alignment. Oh, absolutely, Barry. We'll definitely provide this on demand after today's session, as always. So discovery. And then last but not least in the discovery is that you want to find a purposeful intro. Now, the reason I say purposeful intro is once I've found an organization that has a community overlap and value alignment, I don't just want to reach out and say, hey, we want to partner with you. I want to find the hook that's going to give me access to the best opportunity to set the relationship up right from the start. It's not just about soliciting or convincing people to partner with you, but it's rather actually showcasing both the community overlap and the value alignment and the opportunity to have a purposeful partnership. And it starts with a purposeful intro. Now, once we've had that purposeful intro, it doesn't start there. If someone says, hey, yeah, we should definitely have this conversation, we should, think about a partnership. Now you have to actually cultivate that relationship. And it starts with the outreach and the pitch, which we just talked about. It's also ensuring alignment throughout the whole process. So even pre-agreement and pre-alignment with the partner, you did that right in the discovery phase. But even during the negotiation, you guys might discover that this partnership actually isn't what you thought it was going to be, or the partner actually doesn't feel as though there's alignment throughout. And then even after you begin to work together with a partner, you want to ensure that you're continually assessing the alignment to the partnership. Again, because your goal is a strategic partnership, not a transactional one. And then last but not least, you want to continue to evaluate. You should always go into a partnership with, I have the right to change my mind. And your partner might have the right to change their mind, where it's like we should be evaluating based on the results we're getting, the alignment we're having, the trust and transparency, the goals of the partner, the goals of your organization, the goals of the members, the response of the members. We should be evaluating that and being transparent about that we always reserve the right to change our minds, and your partners do as well. And introducing that into the relationship from the start is really key because, again, it structures the partnership with genuine intention of we are trying to find a strategic partnership, not just get your money and leave. Last but not least, we want to expand the partnership. And this is the opportunity that we're going to be speaking to most in the latter half of this presentation, which is once you have a partner that is a strategic partner, how do you actually expand their engagement with you and ultimately increase the revenue opportunities? I'll just share one more example from the association I shared earlier, is they had developed really strong relationships with some of these medical device providers and other kind of ancillary service partners that were serving the rare disease community that they were an association for. And one thing that they realized is that they were limited on how they could partner based on how they were viewing the partnership. And so they were asking for contribution dollars from the organizations to basically give brand exposure to their member base. And so very typical sponsorship type. Hey, you give us $10,000 a year, we'll put your brand and logo and say, hey, free education, free opportunities, all of this is in part and thanks to our partners, logo. Now, they were leaning in to the philanthropic or contributions dollars related to branding or cause marketing that organization had access to. What they then realized is they expanded their view on how partners could help with them or how they could even help their partners. They were able to expand that opportunity from, I believe, $10,000 a year to $50,000 a year. And that wasn't actually by increasing that much or basically giving away more. And it wasn't trading out one partner for giving them more exclusivity. It was by rethinking the types of ways they could partner with this organization, which actually not only tapped into the philanthropic and brand or cause marketing budget of the partner, but actually started tapping into the marketing budget of the partner. And when they started tapping into the marketing budget, as you probably know from many of your partners, the marketing budget's always bigger than the branding and cause marketing, do good budget. And when you can start getting into the performance marketing budget where you're saying, hey, we can actually help you drive real revenue for your business so that you can commit real dollars to us so that we can expand and grow our community as well. And again, we're going to talk about what they did specifically, and our guest who's going to be joining us in a little bit will be sharing actually how your association can do this as well. But you always want to be thinking about expansion of your partnerships as cultivating strategic relationships. And first and foremost, that's through accountability. And so you're being accountable to what you promised and delivering on that value. You're also nurturing the relationship, not for more dollars, but for more access to figure out ways that you can add more value and find more overlaps of opportunity like this association did. And last but not least, you have to think bigger about these partnerships, like really understanding like what is the partner trying to accomplish? What is the partner really trying to do? And where do I have Legos, as I like to say, as an association, that they really need access to? And that if we combine my Legos with their Legos, we can actually build something really interesting. And that's where like thinking bigger about these partner relationships and even just asking bigger questions to your partners can actually increase revenue opportunities and access to additional relationships as well. So these are the three ways that you can cultivate strategic partners. First, discovery. Second, cultivate. Third, expand. This last one is really about how do you take your current partners and grow? So if you have partners today, you might be thinking about some of them. As we go through the rest of the presentation, you can be thinking, oh, like that partner we have, like I could probably expand them in this way. They might be willing to be a part of it in this way. So again, it's not just about securing a partnership. It's about cultivating a long-term relationship with a partner. Okay, here's the meat of the presentation. We're going to share 3 ways you can leverage strategic partners to grow revenue. The first 2 are going to be like the softballs. The last one is going to be the fast pitch, and that's where we're bringing in an expert. It's going to be awesome. So number 1 is co-marketing campaigns. Co-marketing campaigns. So typically when you think about co-marketing, you're going to be thinking about, okay, well, we sell sponsorships to our events and people put logos on our event promotion and they pay us money to do that. That's really not the co-marketing that I'm going to be talking about here. That's like branded marketing where or it's like sponsorship marketing. They're just giving you money and saying, hey, if you put our logo on your advertisements, like that would be good. Co-marketing efforts is actually thinking a little bit broader on how can we actually promote our partner through our advertising, but actually have it funded by the partner. So for example, this is not an association, but this is another one of our customers we serve here at Feathr that I think is just brilliantly captures this And I'll kind of translate it to the association use case specifically. But this organization was running an event. And instead of just promoting the event as is, they actually had a law firm that they wanted to partner with locally that were also serving the local community, actually pay for the advertising budget for the promotion of their campaigns by then including the basically a co-advertisement with the partner. And so this co-marketing opportunity was actually the law firm doing marketing on behalf of the organization because they were going to get some benefit from it as well and additional exposure. So it wasn't that you just committing to promote the partner through your advertising mechanisms, it was actually activating the partner to run advertising for their organization, but in association with this event or with this opportunity. This is very similar to what you can do as an organization, where you're actually activating them to align their marketing efforts to your association's mission in more of like a cause marketing, co-marketing type way. And again, they did this through a bunch of different packages and opportunities, and they were able to expand their digital footprint for the event by using these kind of like co-marketing, co-promotion opportunities with some of their key partners, like the law firm. The other way that you can do this is, instead of actually asking someone to just sponsor an event in a way where they're just going to put their logo on it and then you're going to do that, is actually translating the ask to the partner to sponsor the marketing of your event. And so instead of them underwriting and just putting their logo on something, it can be putting their logo on something, but directly related to a marketing effort that you're going to do, that they then also get some sort of credit for, or, you know, proudly supported by exclusively, maybe beyond what your other partners get for an event. But it allows you to then do additional advertisements to your members that is funded by the sponsor, but in some ways related back as part of their packaging. So basically getting sponsors to pay for advertising or marketing versus just putting their logo on something. Or this could be in addition to this. And again, businesses and partners understand the need to market. And so sometimes aligning your actual needs, which is, hey, we need to market our membership, or we need to market our event, or we need to do that. Can you actually underwrite or co-market this with us? Is a great opportunity for you to pull in your partners. And again, this is actually asking them for what you directly need versus just selling sponsorships. They're actually now your underwritten advertising partner, or you're the official, like, you know, promotional partner for your event or for your membership drive. So that's number one, co-marketing efforts with your partners, and really thinking creatively on the asks that you're making. Now, number two is a version of co-marketing, but it's more about using the partners or your strategic partners' influences to actually activate their community to promote either your events or your association's efforts. And so the number two way to leverage strategic partners is influencer marketing. So one way you can do this, ASAE does this actually really well, is you can turn your partners into promoters of the event. Now, Feathr as a platform enables you to do this in a really, really organized way. But this isn't just exclusive to if you use Feathr, but Feathr just makes it easier. But you'll see some examples that we showcase from our customers on the presentation. But basically what we mean by this is you can actually turn partners like your speakers, your exhibitors, et cetera, your steering committees, your industry media partners, highly engaged members, et cetera, to actually promote your efforts, whether it's an event, whether it's a membership drive, on your behalf. So if you've ever seen like a GoFundMe campaign or a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign more on the charity side, this is a similar type of a thing, but almost like more of an affiliate program, where you're actually enabling through collateral your partners to actually promote these efforts and actually activate the individuals within the organization you're partnering with to promote this. And this could be landing pages, email invitations, social media graphics, other banner ads, etc. And so in this case, our co-founder was actually helping to do this. And so he was promoting through his influence, so to his community, the opportunity to come to the annual meeting for ASAE, also doing this on social media and really activating the partners network, in this case, Feathr's network, through our co-founder to actually promote the association's efforts. And again, this was through email, this was through social, and also through other activations that they offered. But again, thinking about, hey, this partner of ours has individuals as part of their community that they could actually activate to help us promote an event, a membership drive, a policy initiative that we might be doing, and really leaning into that influencer marketing to be able to drive that. Again, this is thinking bigger about the opportunities, and especially if you're working on something that's really important. So let's say you're trying to change policy on how the legal profession within your state operates. And this is like a really important thing that's going to impact how the legal. We'll use it's a real example right now, but the realtors. There's a policy change on the commission fees realtors are able to take. And again, I'm not an expert on the policy, but right now there's a big debate on whether the 6% that you pay when you sell a house or buy a house is viable and is the right thing. And that's heavily going to impact, realtors and the realtors industry. Now, there are other ancillary partners of the real estate industry that may care about this, that want to make sure. It could be home builders, it could be community advocates, et cetera, that might want to get involved in this policy initiative. And again, thinking about your partners as a hub of influence is another way to leverage that relationship. Okay, number 3, this is where we're going to get into the details and dive deep. And as part of this, I want to kind of give some primer before I invite my guest up. So number 3 is what we call partner-sponsored retargeting campaigns. So partner-sponsored retargeting campaigns, aka monetization. So we're going to call this monetization for the rest of the presentation. But it's really, really interesting way for you to use your community and the influence you have on your community to add additional value to your strategic partners. And so what we mean by this is, actually, I'm going to invite Mike up now, but let me give a primer before I invite Mike up. What we mean by this is that you have direct access and trust and authority with your membership community. And you typically leverage this or give partners access to this through events, or maybe even through like sending out emails and doing other things. And you basically rent that access to your partners in exchange for revenue or support or sponsorship. What Mike is going to come up and talk about is how you can also do that from a digital footprint or a digital touch points standpoint. So without further ado, I'll invite Mike up to the stage. He's the founder of KSS, and we're going to have a live discussion right now. And Mike is like the quintessential expert on what we mean by monetization. He's helped many, many associations think about this, and actually not only think about it, but actually activate hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, Mike, of new revenue for their associations and for their missions. We're going to talk about what are monetization campaigns, what is required to run these campaigns, what is the concept of a strategic audit, and then some real examples of successful campaigns. So Mike, welcome to Flight School.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting. Kudos to you for speaking with a blank audience. Sometimes that's difficult to do rhetorical questions and such. So kudos on the presentation so far.
Awesome. Well, Mike, before we get into the questions on what monetization is, can you just give a little bit of your background and why you're here? Why are you the expert on monetization? What's kind of your experience with it? And how have you worked with associations in the past?
Of course. So I worked at Feathr for the last 3 years, developing the monetization program. It initially started, we had a couple associations that wanted us to sell their advertising on their behalf. And we sort of developed a way to provide service to people that wanted to sell retargeting as a sponsorship. So after 150 different associations that I've worked with over the past 3 years, tons of different use cases, different challenges, and we've developed the program to make it much more seamless. And it's a great offering.
That's awesome. So I kind of teased out like what we mean by this, but how would you describe in like layman's terms on what a monetization campaign is? Like what is this? What are you actually doing as an association if you tap into this with your strategic partners?
Sure. So if you're using Feathr to track your digital audience, serve ads, serve targeted emails, you might serve ads promoting membership benefits to everyone that's visited your membership page because they've shown interest in membership. Same thing for continuing education, same thing for big events. You're going to serve ads reminding people to register, etc. So while you're doing that, you're building up all this data. You're marketing to people that look alike your audience or search keywords. So you're doing all this work to bring people to your website. So monetization is allowing your outside partners, your industry partners, your suppliers, your advertisers, to be able to do the exact same thing with their own ads, driving your audience to their website.
So if I'm thinking about this is like, if Mike, you came to my association's website and you were a member, and Ellie, who's in the background, you guys can't see her, but she's helping us out. But Ellie was a partner of mine. I'm basically renting Ellie access to advertise to you, Mike, for a fee, right? Basically.
Yep.
So I have a first party relationship with you, but then Ellie's able to reach you with advertising because she's running these sponsored campaigns through my association. Is that right?
Yeah, your vendors, which are just companies, you might use whatever term to describe them. Like I said, exhibitors, advertisers, suppliers, they're just companies. So they need to market their services, their products, their reports, downloadable ebooks, and they're going to go to Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, and they're going to run ad campaigns, and they're going to try to get people to their website. So they fill out forms that allow them to email market to them. So instead of going to those sort of broader platforms and sort of shotgun spraying their ads out into the universe, trying to reach the right type of person, your association website is a lightning rod for those people. That's why they pay to exhibit at your shows. So it gives them a more targeted group of people that fit their ideal prospect profile.
Absolutely. I think what's interesting about this too, because I think the question I asked initially, which was like, well, can I do this as an association? Like, is this even the right thing to do? And I think the thing is that if you form relationships with partners that are a win-win-win for everyone, like I used the example earlier with the Rare Disease Association, is that it is a value add for your members and your communities to have access and visibility into what your partners are offering. And you do that through events, you do that through maybe sponsored emails. Monetization or sponsored advertising is just enabling them to do that in a more effective way that's giving the partner more added value and providing more touch points with the community and also increasing revenue for you. So again, it's a win-win situation. Now, what we're not suggesting you do is just go sell your members' data to anybody that wants to buy it. We're talking about strategic relationships. And I think that's key here is that if you're working with partners, advertisers, exhibitors, vendors, whatever you call them, that are adding value to your community and you're trying to introduce your community to them anyways, this is just an additional way to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I view it, like you said, a win-win-win. The association is sort of hosting a dance, so to speak, between regular members and the vendors. Members are doing what they do, and the vendors are innovators. They listen to the members, they understand their challenges, they help them solve those challenges. So, we all see ads everywhere we go. This is the attention economy. So your attention is being used to put messages in front of you all the time, see hundreds of advertisements in a month. So I actually think of it as a service to be able to put relevant messages that are hyper targeted in front of your memberships, on their desktop, their laptop, their mobile devices, rather than, just ads for Mountain Dew or something irrelevant. If your vendors are coming out with industry reports that are valuable and insightful, that's a great thing to put in front of your members' faces and give them access to.
Absolutely. So for those that maybe have never done this or they're trying to wrap their head around it, what are kind of maybe the fundamental components that are required if someone's thinking about activating on this? Like what are the fundamentals of running a monetization campaign?
Well, you need to start by sort of formulating the offer. So if you're offering a banner in your emails or sponsored content in your emails, you generally have a prospectus or a media planner. So you need to sort of outline, how many impressions you're going to sell at what price. And you might even put a duration so that the sponsor can understand they're buying a 3-month campaign, for instance, before, during, and after an event. But essentially, you just need your industry partners to provide their ads and their destination URL so that when someone clicks the ad, where do they go? And then you go into your Feathr account and you launch the campaign on their behalf.
And one of the great things I see here is, again, when I talked about expansion of strategic partnerships, if you already have a core set of partners, so they're exhibiting at your events, they're maybe doing brand sponsorships or email sponsorships, they're already primed for this type of opportunity. You're just actually expanding the touch points they can have with your membership and also expanding your revenue opportunity. And so if you're thinking about like, well, how do I get from 0 to 1 on this? It's really about like, how am I actually deepening the opportunities for my partners to get in front of my members while they're scrolling social or wandering the web, just like I did when they came to my event. So when they came to my event, I introduced them in person. When they came to my website and left and now they're scrolling social, I'm allowing them to do that through digital advertising. Or when they're wandering the web, they're able to now see the partners offer, as you mentioned, an industry report, a new product offering to try, some sort of policy thing or other associated initiative that your members might really care about.
Well, in my experience, the event, for instance, the national conference is sort of the Super Bowl. You know, all the vendors are very excited. They put a lot of money into sponsorships. But, you know, if there's only a handful of events throughout the year, sponsored retargeting gives those vendors a chance to put their message in front of the target audience all throughout the year. So it expands their ability to reach the audience. Plus, you're able to update the ads anytime you want. So you can update the message and you can keep your most relevant marketing message in front of the target audience.
Absolutely. And I love that analogy of like the Super Bowl and then expanding it. This is exactly what the association I shared earlier did, where there was a partner that was just giving them a certain amount of money to come to their events. But now they were able to add $40,000 more a year from the vendor because they were giving the vendor or the partner 365-day access to their community through digital advertising or sponsored campaigns versus just in that, 1 week, 3-day event context. And so, yeah, it's a great opportunity. One thing that might come up, and I think there's already a question in the chat here, is around like maybe misconceptions or challenges with this. Or maybe even objections where they're like, this sounds strange, or I'm not sure if this is going to work. Who's going to do this? How would you help our audience today think about some of those misconceptions or challenges?
Good question. You need to have an understanding of your vendors and if there's an appetite for digital. So if you're doing a lot of print publications and they really only want to spend money on events, then you might not want to introduce this new digital channel if you don't know. So I always recommend maybe audit your top 5, top 10 partners that you might want to just get their input on. Like, hey, we're considering adding this monetization component to where you would be able to serve digital ads to our audience. Do you have any questions about that? Would that be interesting to you? I think you can only send so many emails before people unsubscribe. And you want to have valuable information in those emails. So if you're an association or an organization that sells out of your email sponsorships and you have a long list of people waiting for new sponsorships to open up, that's a really good signal that sponsored retargeting would be great for that group.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a question in the chat that we'll address in just a few minutes, Zach. So we do see it. We'll get to that in just a minute. Can you share a few examples of associations you've worked with where you've helped them get from 0 to 1 and then 1 to success doing digital advertising?
Yeah. So everyone kind of starts in different places based on a number of things, like your sales cycle. Do you create a prospectus for each event, or do you do one annual media planner? So that's sort of the starting point, is how do you currently sell your sponsorships and advertising? And how do you introduce it? How do you communicate what's available and sort of what's the sales process? But as an example, we've had a number of people, we get on a strategic call, we talk about the pricing of their other sponsorships. You want it to kind of fit in context. You don't want to charge too much or too little compared to, say, a 6-month email sponsorship. But we try to keep the price point around similar to Facebook, Google, or LinkedIn ads, which is going to be between $3 and $25 CPM, which is cost per 1,000 impressions. So I guess you start with a strategic audit. You want to make sure that the offer makes sense. And I don't know, does that answer your question? You wanted a specific example, maybe?
Yeah, I think that does make sense, because I do think the questions I would be asking is like, okay, so now like selling an email makes sense. You know, someone says, hey, I want to send a sponsored email. I do that. I send out an email on their behalf, and that's great. Sponsoring an event makes sense. Like, okay, you're going to come and you're going to exhibit, and like people understand that. I think like I'm going to go sell ads. I'm not like, and then I'm going to run ads. It just feels different. So I think what you just talked about there, which is these partners are running ads on other platforms. You, as an association, have built up a trusted relationship with a small niche group that your partners have already indicated they want to engage. You're giving them a better way to engage a targeted audience versus, again, trying to find them on the internet through other platforms. And then the partners paying you some version of a premium, because access to more niche or private audiences that an association has, it should be more expensive because you've already curated the segments, and now they're gaining access to be able to advertise on the behalf. So I think you explained that really well, but can you give us some examples that you've worked with, like, and kind of explain the success they've had, or maybe even some of the challenges you helped them overcome?
Of course. A specific group I work with in the dental space, they have a high-powered sales team. They have 2 separate sales reps that sell all sorts of digital advertising and event sponsorships. And essentially, they were just running out of space in their emails. And so they looked at retargeting as an option to have additional inventory to sell, because similar to the emails, they ran out of banner space on their website. They didn't want to overclutter their website with advertisements. So all these positions are full. They need additional inventory to sell. And ad retargeting, you basically take, if you have 1,000 people that have been to your website, you can serve roughly 60 ads per person. And it's a very conservative sort of approach that we take. But you've just generated, 60,000 ad views that you can sell. And as you grow your audience and your reachable audience increases, that increases the amount of impressions that you can sell each month. So I think they've had that particular client over this past year, they've been selling it by quarter. So you're either getting a small, medium, or large campaign. So simply, that's a good way to boil it down, is you're selling a digital marketing campaign that you're going to launch on their behalf. And so they sell it by quarter. So there will be a list of 5 to 10 sponsors each quarter that are going to be launching a campaign. And I personally work closely with those sponsors because I want to know what their strategic goals are. Are they just wanting to generate brand awareness? Do they want to increase booth traffic at an upcoming show? Do they have a new product or service being launched that they want to just get the word out about? Are they trying to generate leads on their website, et cetera?
Yeah, I think the experience that I have, so, obviously I introduced myself as I run marketing here at Feathr, but Feathr is always trying to engage associations, engage charities, engage others. So we look for partners that have connections with that. So ASAE, as many of you listening probably are aware of, is a great partner of Feathr's, but they're also a customer of Feathr. But we, as Feathr Marketing, sponsor their conference, we sponsor their events, we put some ads on their association now and do all of that. But we also actually pay ASAE to do these types of digital retargeting campaigns on behalf of Feathr. And so Feathr obviously wants to engage associations. ASAE has curated a network of ASAE or of associations. We, as Feathr, are actually buying ads through ASAE to be able to do this. And it has incredible impact, not in of itself only, but because it's enhancing our overall relationship with the ASAE community. So just speaking on behalf of from the partner's perspective, this is a huge opportunity, and we're willing to pay a premium on those opportunities because, again, ASAE in this case has curated a audience that we really want to engage, and we want to be we almost want to leverage the trusted relationship ASAE has in our relationship with ASAE to reach associations and ASAE members. So again, both from the association standpoint, you mentioned your client, has generated hundreds of thousands of more dollars in revenue by activating this, but the partners are getting just as equal weight of value in being able to access this. So it's an incredible opportunity. If you have questions for Mike or myself on this, please drop them in the chat. We'd love to address those. But to wrap up with you, Mike, in this section, what are maybe 3 actionable steps an association can take if they're considering launching this, or maybe even trying this again?
Well, you can start by reviewing the monetization materials that are in Feathr Academy if you're a current customer. I believe there's information on the website that kind of give an overview of it as well. You might start to consider adding ad retargeting as an option with, like, in combination with other sponsorships you're already offering. For instance, 6 months with the top banner in a weekly newsletter that you do, an e-newsletter, plus 150,000 retargeted ad views during that same time. And then also you can partner with someone like myself who can, provide consulting services to help you get started, and then train your team, that sort of thing.
That's awesome. Well, Mike, thank you so much for giving of your time. Again, you're going to stick around for the rest of the presentation just to make sure that you can help us answer any questions that come in. So again, if you have questions for Mike or I about this, feel free to drop those in the chat. But Ellie, could you put the slides back up? Awesome. So again, monetization oversimplified is monetization leverages the value of your audience to give your sponsors a new digital marketing channel. Additionally, the benefits are your sponsors get a direct line of communication with your audience. They get consistent exposure, and it's more precise than their alternatives. So again, you're tapping into their marketing budget more and more that they're using on other performance channels versus just their brand sponsorship budget. Again, benefits of you as benefits to sponsors, direct line of communication with your audience, etc. Now, a few examples of organizations we've worked with. AANA generated about 45,000 in 3 months by putting together a campaign. As Mike shared, they had an explanation of benefits in their kind of media guide or their prospectus, where they said, hey, yeah, you can advertise on our website or in our newsletters or via emails or at our events, but you can also do retargeting. And so having an educational page like this to educate your partners on what this opportunity is was a great way for them to be able to do that. There was also the WEF Tech. They ran a partnership with one of their sponsors and generated a lot of revenue as well. They sold 50,000 impressions for $3,300. Their cost to run the ads, which we didn't touch on with Mike, was only $225. So obviously sending emails, you have limited inventory, but it doesn't cost you anything to send that one email per se. With ads, you're actually spending a little bit of the money you're paid, but the margin on your spend is huge. In this case, 93%. And so 93% of the spend was just additional revenue for the association and profit. The other thing here that I think is interesting that we see a lot of our association customers do is you can now reinvest that profit into growing further engagement and traffic with your audience. So in some ways, you're renting some of the ad space to your partner, but at a premium. Then you're using the remainder budget to basically increase your advertising budget for your membership programs to drive additional traffic that increases impressions that then you can rent out to your partners. So again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy in some ways, where you're actually using sponsored dollars to grow engagement, and then that growth of engagement generates more revenue, and you can keep going from there. Not the only benefit, again, but it's a huge opportunity. And then the other thing is, if you're using a platform like Feathr, and if you're interested in learning more about how Feathr helps you do this, because again, it's designed specifically to help associations do this, or if you're a current customer and you're like, this sounds awesome, I want to talk to my customer success manager, just put a +1 or a +2 in the chat. If you're a customer, put +2. If you're interested in learning more about Feathr, just put a +1. But what Feathr does is we have these dashboards built into the product where you can actually send this to the sponsor. And so when we talk about accountability and holding or being transparent, you can actually show the sponsor exactly what's happening with their ad campaigns by giving them a shareable link. Almost like if you shared a Google Doc, you can share out these reports. So instead of building them, you can just send it to the partner and they can see exactly the impact of your campaigns. So a great way to not only be transparent, but to strengthen the relationship with the impact of that. So how does monetization, again, compare to other sponsored campaigns? Mike addressed this, but just kind of addressing this directly is sponsored retargeting versus emails. With sponsored emails, you are limited in how many you can send, and cluttering inboxes. Sponsored retargeting and virtually limitless inventory, and the margins on it is very, very good. And also you're tapping into a different budget opportunity by not just looking at branded and sponsored budgets, but also looking at performance marketing budgets of your partners. Web banners, again, similar thing that Mike addressed. Events, similar type thing. With event sponsorships, you're limited to the confines of the event in terms of booth time and location. Ads can be sold year round, which again, your partners want to reach your members year round typically. So this is a great way to do that. Here's an example of a insights association that had a media kit that kind of, again, showed what retargeting was, the quality of it, and then kind of the pricing as was mentioned by Mike. And so all of this can be created by your team, or you can partner with someone like Mike and his firm at KSS to be able to work with you on this type of thing. Oops. Okay, great. I want to get to the question slide. Again, if you have questions, feel free to drop that in the chat. If you're interested in learning more about Feathr and how we can help you not only do your advertising campaigns for your partners, but to help you run your marketing, you can type 1 in the chat if you want to learn more about Feathr, or just a 2 in the chat if you want to, if you already have Feathr, but you want to learn how to better leverage Feathr. Now, jumping into the questions, I see Zach Adams has a question. Zach says, what would you recommend as one of your 2 best practices for re-engaging a current strategic partner where overall alignment and active collaboration had recently slipped? Mike, do you have any thoughts on this, on how maybe with either monetization or just regular strategic partnerships, how you re-engage partners that maybe have kind of slipped off?
Well, retargeting it allows the association to offer your partners one of the latest digital marketing technologies. So if someone has maybe slipped out of communication or hasn't been as involved, this is a great value opportunity to reach out with something new and exciting, and a new channel for them to reach the audience that they want to reach. So I think this gives you a great reason to knock on the door and say hi to someone with a great new opportunity. I think it's a valuable thing to be able to bring to someone who maybe has slipped out.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think my question back to you, Zach, would be, you mentioned overall alignment has also slipped. I think my question would be is, what's happening at the partner that maybe caused that? And can there be a really candid conversation with the partner to better understand whether they even want to partner, or what goals they have that maybe you haven't addressed or discussed directly with them, that you might be able to think bigger about on how the association can actually better partner with that strategic to make sure that it's a mutual win-win with them. So again, I think it's contextual to like, why have they slipped away and what the opportunity is. I think if it's about, hey, the offerings you've had previously are not that interesting to them anymore, again, that's where maybe new opportunities, like we mentioned, monetization or co-marketing come into play. Or it's actually just a realignment conversation where it's like better understanding what's happening within their business that might provide you context to help solve how the relationship makes sense, even within that context. I think often we only see the surface versus inviting the question of like, what's going on in your business? What are the priorities of your business? And let me do some thinking on how we can better support you in that alignment. The question's typically, how can you help me? But if you can go into the conversation of like, help me understand the top 3 challenges you're dealing with and where you're finding issues, and then let me do the translation work of why and how the partnership does or doesn't help with those. That's often really powerful, is do the work for them. We had another question here about developing and crafting formalized agreements with strategic partners. Mike, do you have any references or kind of examples of where someone might look to see what that might look like?
Well, the partnerships that I deal with would be a sales contract. It would be an ad agreement, because you're selling digital advertising. So sometimes you have a form that you send that has a list of things. You just check a box for which sponsorship you're interested in. But most of the work that I do, it involves a sort of a custom plan, and then an agreement that would go out for that.
Yeah, Barry, I would reference that too. It really depends on kind of, it's going to be, again, pretty contextual to like what the scope of the agreement needs to involve, whether it's like, hey, we have these commitments that we're working on. Maybe there's deliverables, probably similar to any event contracts you have with your partners. But also always smart to talk to legal guidance on any legal documents there as well. Deborah mentions, what is your advice in creating programs that suit both transactional and strategic partners with aligned goals? Maybe when is it okay? I'm reading into this question, but when is it okay just to have transactional partners? My advice here is that I think it's fine, but I think it's important to look at opportunities that are win-win-win for your members, because attention is the most valuable currency today. And so your ability to engage and steward your member base is the first priority of your organization. Like when we ask the association, what's your number one priority? They say, keep engaged members. Now, if you overwhelmingly expose them to transactional to meet revenue goals, you're actually renting their attention to someone that may or may not be aligned with kind of the commitment or promise that the members have done. And that may make sense on occasion. But I do think it's really, really important to balance programs that prioritize strategic relationships that are win-win-win for your members, because you're accomplishing two things in that case. You're increasing trust and kind of authority and commitment with your member base, while also accessing more revenue opportunities. And one thing I think is important is, as you can expand your relationship with strategics, it might actually reduce the number of other partners that you need that are on the fringes. So how do you go deeper with your strategic partners through monetization, other opportunities, versus having more quantity of partners that maybe requires you to have some transactional partners in that mix? All great questions. I think we covered all of them in the chat. Again, if you're interested in learning more about Feathr and how Feathr can help you and your association both engage your members, but also better engage your strategic partners, feel free to put a 1 in the chat. I see a bunch of people have already done that. Thank you. We'll get out to you very soon. If you are a current Feathr customer and you want to learn more specifically about how to use Feathr to run your monetization campaigns, or even start a monetization campaign, put a 2 in the chat and we will have your customer success manager reach out. Mike, if someone's interested in learning more and connecting with you, what's the best way for them to do that? And can you drop maybe a link in the chat for them to connect with you on?
Yeah, I can drop my scheduling link. I welcome discovery calls. If you have any questions and would just like to pick my brain if I could possibly help, I'm happy to meet to discuss your specific challenges or maybe concerns. I believe in what associations do, and I want to help you give your membership and your partners value. So yeah, I'll drop my scheduling link in there, and feel free to, I'll also drop my email address. Feel free to reach out.
That'd be great. Mike, again, thank you for giving of your time, and thank you to the audience for giving of your time. We dropped the monetization training course in the chat. Mike's going to drop his information in the chat. And again, if you have questions, just reach out. We will send you the recording and a summary of today's flight school. Thank you for giving of your time and being here with us today. Mike, thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Flight School. Thanks, everyone.